Good morning. Thank you for making it out this Thursday, especially Thursday morning. Anybody have exciting parties they went to last night? I'm actually surprised I got this big of an audience for a Thursday. So I'm going to talk to you today about Application Hub, which about 98% of it is in my mind still. It's really not a product. It's more of a vision. And so I'm really excited to discuss this with this audience because I'm looking for a lot of feedback on what we're going to try to get done here. So my name is Raj Advani. I have been with Salesforce now for 12 years. Roughly 9 of those years I was in services, helping customers like yourselves with large implementations. And the last few years I've moved over to product, mainly on the platform side. I worked on Platform Cache, now Salesforce DX, and now I'm slowly transitioning over to what we're calling the Application Hub. So for the first time that I can remember, this slide really means something today, because everything I'm going to be talking to you is really forward-looking. Only 2 screens actually exist at this time. In fact, my developers weren't allowed to come to Dreamforce because they've got a lot to get done. So please don't make any purchasing decisions based upon what I'm going to tell you here. A lot of this I'm going to try to sell to you. So I'm telling you up front, let's take everything I say with a little bit of a grain of salt. So, quick show of hands, who here is familiar now with Salesforce DX? Good. Okay, excellent. We've spent a lot of time in product building Salesforce DX for what I call our professional developers. Those who are comfortable with code, comfortable with CLI, comfortable with CI. But as we all know, in the ecosystem of Salesforce, that's only one piece of our users. We do have admins that I consider still developers. They're writing they're writing validation rules, they're doing workflow rules, they're still helping to build an application. They may not be writing code, but they are helping to build an application. We've spent considerable time and resources with Lightning and our so-called low-code developers. I'm sure you've all heard clicks, not code. How do those individuals get to use Salesforce DX? That's essentially what the challenge that was put on my desk regarding Application Hub. When I go and talk to admin groups or I go and talk to low-code developers and I give them terms like CLI or CI, I get a glossy face back at me. And that's not their comfort zone. And we at Salesforce want to include everybody. So instead of me trying to get them to change, we'll just give them a tool so they don't have to change, so they can go on doing their work. So with that, I like to introduce to you the concept, the vision, the product, however we want to call it, of the Application Hub. If I was to sum it up in a sentence or two, it's a UI for the CLI. But in my mind, it's a lot more and will be a lot more than just that. We'll start with a UI for the CLI, but it's really a product that you can use for the managing and creation and distribution of applications, as well as helping teams collaborate. How developers and admins collaborate on a project, on an environment, and so on. Making them work together and getting rid of that divided line between developers and admins. So it's a multifaceted tool. There's quite a few components to it. One is environment management. For my pure admins out there, from my experience working with larger customers, how great would it be to be able to log into an application and see a listing of all your Salesforce environments with their org IDs, who created them, if it's a sandbox, when was it last refreshed? Instead of having to go into each and every single environment, you'd have a listing right there where you can see all that information. You can click into an environment to get more details. And if you need be, from there, you can actually log into the environment without having to pass credentials again. No more having to remember those 50 usernames for that sandbox you created 6 months ago, and you have to go look up on that spreadsheet or so on. I see some people nodding, so I'm assuming this is kind of what they're going through now. So that's step 1, environment management. Step 2 is package management. Who here has gone to some of the great sessions from one of my colleagues, Dilip, around next generation packaging? Great. There's not much of a UI for it. right? It's really, again, all CLI based. And as I talked about a few minutes ago, I want admins building packages. I don't want them to have to deal with change sets. Who here's a fan of change sets? Exactly. See? So I want them building packages too. But again, it goes back to that same issue. Admins aren't comfortable in CLI. So why not give them a UI that they can build packages and deploy packages as well? Team collaboration. I know we have Chatter, and all we're really doing with Application Hub is kind of bringing Chatter into the fold. So you may have an environment that an admin's working on and can chatter to a developer or a team. What's going on with this environment? Anybody care if I refresh it? So on. And finally, release management, which I think is the heart of Application Hub, which is also the piece that we're still working on a lot. And I'll show a great screenshot for this, but essentially, is anyone here familiar with Heroku pipelines? I'm trying to build Heroku pipelines for Salesforce and Application Hub. I love it. So you've got a list of packages. You can drag and drop them into the environment that they need to go into. That's your deployment. Pushing it over into an environment that it needs to go into. That's as simple as that. So I've got a couple of screenshots and I'll give you a very basic demo, but I was talking about the environment management piece. This would be your listing. You've got all your environments on one screen. Every environment that you would have access to, every environment that's attached to that dev hub, you'd be able to see instead of having to click into every single one of them. Now, granted, this is a pure admin task, but it's also a building block for what I'll discuss in a few minutes, which is the pipelines. So you're looking at your list here, and you may decide you want to click into one of these environments. And now you get details. You get some information on where you are in regards to limits for this environment, especially APIs and maybe data storage and so on. We are plans to make this more configurable and show more information as well. So you can see information about the environment. You see on the very right there, you'll see you've got some activity and chatter feed information based on this environment as well. At the top, you can see there's some buttons open. Because you've logged into your dev hub, I don't really have a concept of logging into this environment. You're opening this environment. So, and that's important for me because what I'm trying to stress is you don't have to pass those credentials again, which I know has been a pain for a lot of admins, is credential management. Pipelines. This is again what I kind of discussed. I love the nodding and smiling I'm getting over here on pipelines. So essentially, all of these tiles are packages. Take change sets out of your minds for right now. All of these tiles are packages. And you can see now at a high level, because you've got all those environments that you've set up already, you've got UAT. That's backed by an environment. In this case, you've got two staging environments, one for APAC and one for the United States, as well as you may have multiple production environments. I know we used to think Salesforce was a single org, but I know many of you have multiple production environments, and that's a valid use case. So you can see here we've got multiple production environments. You can also see, we can see exactly what package is deployed on each one of those environments. If we break it down a little further, your very left-hand column here is what's still in development. So none of that has not been deployed. And if you see at the top, you can even see number 41, number 42 are actual individual changes that are going into this package. As a release manager, if there are any release managers in here, you can accept or decline that change. You may decide that change is not valid for this package, or that change is going to affect something else, and remove it from the package. So you can see exactly what's in development. And the great thing also is, because of Scratch orgs, you can open up a Scratch org with this package deployed for you to confirm. So again, as a release manager or even as a developer, I want to see how my fix looks within an org as an admin. And I know we can do it via the CLI, but again, a UI for that. Moving over to see what's been deployed, you can see when it was deployed, what version it is, what environment it's deployed to. And the great thing is, if I go back, Winter 17 hotfix. If Winter 17 hotfix is ready, you can just drag it. Because it's a hotfix, you probably aren't going to go through your full testing suite of UAT and staging. You can just drag it over directly to deployment based upon how you how you run your business and how your software ALM cycle works. So that's your deployment right there. So you've got all these different packages based on our next generation packaging that you can move over accordingly. And finally, you can see what's in production. You can see when it was deployed into production. If you were to click on one of these, you'll be able to get a listing of what was in that package, who made the change, when they made the change. No more writing over each other, no more stepping over each other and not knowing, what did George do last week? I have no idea. He changed something, but I don't know what it is. I don't even know if it's George. I'm assuming it's George. It's George's area, so I'm assuming it's George. You'll have a full history. And because it's all backed by source control, you have that rollback functionality. It's not really rollback. You can just deploy another one, right? It's based on your source control. So it removes a lot of the barriers for admins and low-code developers to deploying things to Salesforce and to becoming more part of the development team. I'm going to do my best to give you a demo here really quick, kind of show you where we're at. So here's a live system on my Dev Hub. And these are my environments right here. So if I was to click on, let's say, this environment, that's a live environment. I can see here, if I want to, I can see my details. I just created this environment early this morning, so there's probably not much going on in it, but I can open it. There you go. I've opened a scratch org from a UI. And even more powerful, and you can see I open up another tab because I want Application Hub to be your home. That's where you live out of going forward. And if I wanted to, I could create a new environment. So for right now, all I have the ability to create is a scratch org. As they just talked about, you have to set up a scratch org definition file. There you go. Give it a few seconds and you will have created an empty scratch org. Go back, check my environment listing, make sure it's actually created. And there it is, the new one, right there. You've created a scratch org from a UI. No having to worry about the CLI. So I've left what I think is the most important piece for last. And I want to talk a little bit about the architecture. When I started at Salesforce, I used to think to myself, oh my God, I have a 4-month release cycle. That is so fast. How am I going to get anything done in 4 months? It's now to the point where I chose to build this on the Salesforce platform, not within the core product. So it is a deployable package that you would deploy onto your Dev Hub. And the main benefit for that is I can give you updates far faster. I am not, instead of freaking out about how fast it was, my mindset is now I don't want to be handcuffed to that, having to wait 4 months. So it's a deployable package. If I get something done in the next 10 days, I would deploy it back out, and it's continuously getting updates instead of having to wait because it's living on your Dev Hub. And to me, that's the most exciting part, also the most challenging part. My hat's off to those of you that are developing on the platform. There are still some great challenges that even we're, as a Salesforce employee of 12 years, we're still going through. So I have much respect for everything that you've been putting into it. So timelines. I'm hoping by this point you're a little excited on the timelines. Remember, please remember that forward-looking statement we talked about a few slides ago. We are pretty much at Dreamforce. I'm trying to schedule and get out a dev preview by the end of November. The dev preview might only have scratch orgs and a couple of other things, but again, because I can get you updates so quickly, I don't mind starting a dev preview really slow, and we build for the next few months as things come out, and I get feedback from, I might get feedback from Ezra. Ezra wants this, and I can get it into him the next week, and so on. So it's going to be more of a continuous cycle. The goal is to have a pilot by TDX. I hope you all can make it to TDX, because I hope we'll have a bigger announcement of where we are with Application Hub. And then our goal is to go GA by summer 18. So again, one other thing, I'm hoping everyone is now asking, well, how do I get involved in this? This is interesting. I may be a hardcore developer, but I know I work on a team with admins and so on who would love this, who are feeling neglected because they haven't been included in Salesforce DX. So I'm looking for roughly 30 to 40 participants for Dev Preview. I have about 15 to 20 right now. And my only stipulation to them is that I need to get timely feedback. Because we're so early in the process, I'm really building this for the correct audience. If I can get timely feedback, that's the number one thing. If you're still interested, please call me, email me, find me on Twitter. For your Harry Potter fans, send me an owl. Do whatever you need to do. I want to hear from everybody. I mean, I'm not sold on 30 to 40. If I find the 44th candidate is the perfect ideal person, I'm not going to say no. So by no stretches am I going to turn anybody away. And that's kind of it. I did leave a few minutes for questions and answers. If you have any, or I can take them off stage, on stage. I hope it's as exciting for you as it is for me. This is really where I see the future of DX going and getting everyone into the fold. So thank you very much for your time.